Justice is blind, but not when it comes to your computer and security issues. Learn about amazing legal issues involving computer security. Coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Holiday Inn West in sunny Myrtle Beach, right on the waterway. We're focused on last week's computer security conference, which was held here at the hotel, and we're visiting with one of its invited speakers, an attorney with Womble, Carlisle, Sandridge, and Rice, Culley Carson. Good morning, Culley.
Good morning, Greg.
Thanks so much for coming in this morning.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It is so exciting to think about your tremendous talk on legal issues, security issues, and computers.
Right.
Which really has worldwide significance.
Oh, absolutely. This day and age, everything being so connected by the internet and with e-commerce and everything, it's very, very critical time in information security. So,
and Womble, Carlisle, Sandridge, and Rice is really cutting edge in legal issues, security issues.
We put together a team across industries to deal with a whole host of both the regulations as well as the enforcement actions, as well as helping companies to prepare themselves for all of the really alphabet soup of regulation that has come out of the federal government and state governments, for that matter.
Oh, golly, you know, it is fascinating when you think, and of course, coming down here, are you originally from this area, Culley?
No, actually, I grew up in Durham, North Carolina, so just right up the road, although I spent most of my childhood summers right up the road in Ocean Isle Beach.
Oh, yeah, in Brunswick County,
Brunswick County, right over the border.
So, we love it, we love it.
Came to Myrtle Beach virtually every summer, I think.
At least to buy fireworks.
Right, to buy fireworks and enjoy the Grand Strand. So it was great.
So you know this area relatively well, and of course, growing up in the Triangle, which is a real hotbed of a lot of things going on, the Research Triangle Park, a lot of computer issues there, the home of Duke University, NC State, and UNC Chapel Hill, and some other tremendous institutions in that area. It's pretty much a cutting-edge area. You're back there now, right?
I am. I've spent a number of years away from Durham. Went to Washington, D.C., spent some time on Capitol Hill up there working, and then went to law school, and then actually spent the last 7 years in Atlanta. So sort of been and done the big city thing and wanted to come back home to North Carolina, and have really enjoyed being back there, but also enjoyed being part of the firm that in our Research Triangle Park office, which, as you say, is right in the hub of all that's going on. There's so many businesses, Fortune 100 companies that have either relocated their headquarters there or have a major presence there. Cisco Systems, Dell, counted among them.
So SAS, IBM, and of course SAS not being a Fortune 100, but still being one that has dramatic impact on a lot of folks.
Absolutely. They've had a huge operation over there and a dramatic impact not only in the Triangle but worldwide. So to be a part of that is just phenomenal.
And probably the excitement of being associated with Womble, Carlisle, Sandridge, and Rice, which really has ties and tentacles spread out all over, but probably overlaps with all of those companies, even the major Fortune 100 companies.
Sure, and that's one of the things I think that the firm prides itself on, is its ability to cross-sell across markets. So we have people who represent these Fortune 100 companies in some particular area of the law. If that company has another need, we can go to an expert in Washington, D.C. We can go to an expert in Atlanta, or right there in the Research Triangle Park. So, we also have an office in Greenville, South Carolina. So
good.
We have
there's a presence here in the Palmetto State. Great.
Absolutely. In fact, we were one of our attorneys, Larry Etheridge, was instrumental in helping Google come to South Carolina.
I didn't know that. Just recently,
Just recently, it was in the news. So Larry helped them acquire a site, I think, that they're going to be building.
A data center or
data
something.
center right outside of Charleston. So
that's great. I think they're doing one also in North Carolina as well.
Google's a good client. We help them as well in North Carolina.
That's tremendous. Start those connections in the Tar Heel State and bring them on over to the Palmetto State.
Absolutely.
We appreciate that. That's fantastic. Is Womble, Carlisle, Sandridge, and Rice headquartered there in the Triangle?
Actually, they're headquartered in Winston-Salem.
Oh, good, sure.
the firm is over 100 years old. It's based in Winston-Salem, as I said. Very strong ties to Wake Forest University.
Yes.
And R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company. That's essentially where it found its roots, and then has since expanded to, I think now over 11 offices.
Is that right?
Primarily up and down the Atlantic and eastern seaboard is where our focus is. So.
That is tremendous. And of course, you know, so much goes into preparing to be a speaker at a conference. And obviously last Thursday you were here. I guess you traveled in from the Triangle to be here for the conference. How did you go about preparing for your talk, and what exactly what was it about?
Sure. Well, as I said, one of the great things about working for Warren Carlyle is that we have essentially experts in every area of the law. So one of the first things I did was reach out to some of those folks. Right. Mike Hubbard, who's in our Raleigh office, is a noted expert on HIPAA-related security issues.
Okay, for viewers who may not be familiar with HIPAA, what exactly is that?
HIPAA is a set of regulations that deals with the healthcare industry, and basically so that you keep your personal identification and information regarding your health care or insurance and that kind of thing, keep that private so that people can't get access to that information. So he works with kind of Fortune 500 companies to try to get their policies in order so that they comply with these regulations.
Good.
Did that also with a fellow, Ted Claypool.
Yes.
Ted is in our Charlotte office.
Right.
And he is former in-house counsel with Bank of America, also with CompuServe.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Tremendous.
So he has a lot of great experiences to tap into. Also, of course, I did my own research, and we're just taking some of the lessons that I've learned working with clients in this area.
Sure.
And hopefully putting together a presentation. I think it was well received, at the conference. So.
I was fascinated, Culley, reading a little about you when I visited your firm's website, the WCSR.com, to see a little bit about your experiences with Bovis Lend-Lease down in Atlanta. It looks like you were very involved in their legal division there, and really watching a lot of aspects involved in more than it looked like $150 million in transactions. One of the exciting aspects was your involvement in really the business side of an operation as opposed to just the legal side. Those experiences themselves probably helped some in preparing for the last week's conference.
Absolutely. I think it's really important as a lawyer, to be able, if you're going to try to advise your clients in the business clients, you have to have some framework of understanding as to what some of their needs are, what their demands on their time, as well as how to get the job done in a quick but also very effective way.
Right.
And working in-house with Bovis, which is a global construction and development company, really helps to hone those skills, to be able to understand the financial impact, but also the need for quick and concise advice to clients. So that was a great training, I think. And also, I think one of the things that Womble Carlyle also values is folks who have some previous business
some hands-on experience. Absolutely.
Right, because that's if they're going to be holding themselves out as providing world-class legal advice to businesses, they've got to have folks who know business. So, so that's one of the things that I think the firm values, and what brought me there.
Oh yeah, and speaking of that, I know you traveled to the Myrtle Beach area a few times on behalf of Bovis Lend-Lease, and there's a tremendous resort up in the North Myrtle Beach area that Bovis was involved in. I think they're even involved right now on an existing project that may have began after you left Bovis Lend-Lease out on the former Myrtle Beach Air Force Base. A lot happening there at the Market Common with McCaffrey and Lucadia and some of those groups that are doing a gigantic project now. I've seen the Bovis signs out on site.
I was working on some of those deals early on.
Right.
And Bovis is really trying to get a presence here. Obviously, Myrtle Beach is a fantastic market.
Oh yeah.
With so much going on. With the the beachfront properties, a lot of them are being either destroyed or revitalized. So it's a great opportunity for a construction company.
Right behind us here, a $500 million park, the Hard Rock theme park, the first in the world, going up with gigantic investment from all over, both from Israel, as well as Florida, a $450 million park, literally right behind the hotel here.
Wow.
So some big excitement, which will be opening next year. And of course, part of the hub here, the Holiday Inn West, a lot of conferences going on here all the time. And of course, the success of last week's conference. Dr. Stamey, the general chair, was with us earlier this week talking about the conference. It sounds like y'all had a really, really big turnout. And of course, your presentation, I understand you put together a PowerPoint presentation to try to get some legal issues across to the guests there, many of which were locals and others who traveled in from all over the world.
Yeah. It was actually, I did put together a presentation. I mean, there's a PowerPoint for, makes it a little bit easier for everybody to see.
Sure.
But it's also, there's so much in this area. I mean, you really could, I spoke for 45 minutes, but
wow.
I could have talked for 45 minutes on one of my slides, probably.
Oh,
because
wow.
There's just so much information in this area. It's just it's a cutting-edge area that's evolving every day. There's new legislation coming out almost every day. In fact, recently here in the news in South Carolina, Senator Cleary, who's right up the road.
Yes, down in Murrells Inlet, right?
Murrells Inlet,
yeah, very
right.
close to here, Ray Cleary.
He, apparently his wife had an experience where an employee embezzled some money from him, and part of the issue there was that employee's access to her business personal information. So
yeah.
Protecting that information, making sure that not only people from the outside, people who might want to hack into your system, but also making sure that your employees abide by your policies, but also that that you do your own due diligence on your employees to make sure that you do background checks and these kind of things to make sure that that they've got the credentials, but also to make sure that they're folks you'd want to have in the business. So
that's a tough thing, as you know, and I'm sure Walma Carlisle, Sandridge and Rice, like other law firms. I know Zeke Creech was with us on Tuesday from Parker Poe,
right.
Adams and Bernstein, who traveled in talking about healthcare issues. But for both of you all associated with large firms, when you're or small firms, when you're discussing with clients those issues about how do you delicately handle these issues of doing background checks. That seems so like heavy-handed, tough thing to do, but at the same time, as you say, with computer security issues as difficult as they are, and with the ease of access to information, the issue like Ray Cleary and his wife Lisa, where $58,000 were swiped out of her accounts and just run up these gigantic bills, they can happen overnight.
Right. Well, I think one of the things that we can provide as a firm with one that communicates regularly internally,
right,
is some of the lessons learned from some of our cases, some of the clients we represented, to benefit other people, other clients that might have similar situations, or to be able to tell them, look, I understand your concern about being heavy-handed, but at the same time, here are a couple of things that have happened in the past that we think it's a good idea to set up a policy right now, and if your folks follow it, really, in this day and age, most people are used to following internal company policies. So if you just add another one on computer security or access to information, most people are okay with that. And as long as you go about it in the right way and explain what you're doing, why you're doing it, in our experience, most people are okay with those types of basic parameters. So,
what are some of the aspects for, and that's great, I'm glad you mentioned that, some of the aspects for our viewers, just some basic things that they need to be thinking about, some of the legal issues that they may not think about if they're not an employer, if they don't own a big company, if they work somewhere, if they're just at home relaxing right now, either retiring or on vacation. What are some of the things that they can think about on a practical side, Culley, to impact their life, either to be careful or otherwise, on legal issues they need to be thinking about?
Sure. Well, there's a number of issues, Greg, that they need to be concerned with. If you're at home on your laptop, make sure that you've done some investigation and contacted some folks who have some of the software to protect you from outside hackers. And they can. There's so many companies out there who can help you in this area. But I would suggest, a firewall or something along those lines. And they have them now that you can just get from Office Depot or one of the stores like that you can get. I think it's a good way to protect your home systems. Another important thing, especially for the folks here who may be retired or elderly, to remember that whenever you get something in the mail, a piece of information, if it has your social security number, or any personal information that could identify you in any way, you need to make sure that you destroy that information before throwing it out. Because, in fact, there's a big case coming out of the state of Texas where some employees from Radio Shack dumped several boxes full of receipts into the garbage dump behind the store, and the state's investigators from the state's attorney general office discovered this and discovered all the information that was just on these receipts. So you have to be very careful. Obviously, the customers there in that situation couldn't help that situation, but as an individual consumer of information, you need to make sure that you're discarding your information such that people who might want to go through your trash or do whatever sort of subversive type tactics to get your information, that they don't have access to that. And the easiest way is to maybe get a shredder or something like that and just shred that kind of information, just so that you don't have it, you don't risk it out there in the subject to some of these people who make their business from taking information these days.
One of the other interesting points you noted earlier this morning, I'm not sure if you used it in your talk last week when you were speaking at the conference, but that aspect that would really impact Palmetto residents, that aspect of South Carolina not being in a position, again, I don't know if you tied that into your conference, but it's very interesting in that the state does not hold, share with viewers a little bit about what you learned a little bit about in reviewing South Carolina preparing for your talk.
Sure. I mean, I think the state is, in fact, this issue with Senator Cleary, I think, has brought it to the forefront, because I understand just through reading the news publications that he is going to be introducing a bill in the Senate to deal with some of these issues. I think they have some legislation that has gone forward in various ways, but they don't have a comprehensive, like many states, a comprehensive set of policies, legislation to require business to notify their customers in the event that they have a security breach. California was the first to have such legislation, and really 33 or 34 states now have adopted similar legislation.
So almost everything. Is North Carolina one of those?
North Carolina is one of them. They have a protection of both Social Security numbers, as well as you can freeze, in North Carolina, you can freeze your credit report such that, if you note that somebody's stolen your personal information, so that it doesn't impact your credit report. So, because that's one of the big issues that people have had. If somebody steals your personal information, and like in the case of Mrs. Cleary, has a bunch of credit cards made in their name, that information can then cause great havoc and harm to somebody's personal credit rating.
Sure.
So, which, especially in this area, is of vital importance with folks who, have been subject to, various scams where people try to get their personal information to do just that.
And even worse for Lisa Cleary, when she would call in to try to get them, to find out more about it, they wouldn't even give her access to her own stuff. Because the person, the woman there, the young woman in that instance that had stolen her identity, was going even further and not giving her own access to stuff to try to cut the gal off.
It
was terrible.
No, it's
terrible.
It is.
Crazy.
Once you're in that situation, it's got to be very frustrating to know that this is going on. And from the business side, obviously you have to adhere to your policies. So those people were just adhering to their policies to say, we can't give out, personal information. I'm sorry, you say you're Mrs. Cleary, but we don't know that. We have no way of verifying that. So it's a very frustrating situation, and that's one of the things I think some of this legislation can help in that regard, to help alleviate that and help to, in fact, prosecute people who, or add to the quiver full of arrows that a prosecutor has in dealing with some of these cyber crimes.
Speaking of legislation, Culley, I thought it was fascinating reviewing your the little piece about you at the Womble, Carlisle, Sandridge, and Rice website, that you had spent some time with the Foreign Relations Committee in Washington and had been actively involved with them. Was that prior to going to law school or after going to law school and actually working on the Hill?
Yeah, actually that was both is actually the answer. I worked in college. I worked up on Capitol Hill just as an intern.
Right.
And then went up there again in college and worked on the Foreign Relations Committee as a college intern. And then in law school went back and worked in the General Counsel's office for the Foreign Relations Committee.
Tremendous.
Which was fantastic. It was actually interesting. I was working on a lot of the child abduction, which is something that was in the news back then. Janet Reno at the time was one of her big initiatives was to help folks who have had their child taken from them and removed to another country, either mostly by a spouse.
Oh, yeah.
And in a lot of cases, the United States government was not able to then go over under a treaty. Typically, that's how it's done. Under a treaty that we would have with that government, our government agencies could coordinate with their police over there and hopefully get the child back. But in a lot of cases, we were discovering that we didn't have treaties in place with a number of countries that we had issues like this. A lot of the Middle East actually were the focus. So
wow.
So it was fascinating work. Yeah.
That must have been powerful. And of course, you ended up getting your law degree from a Catholic university there
Catholic
in Washington.
University in Washington D.C. Correct.
That's wonderful. So much going on up there in the D.C. area when you think about it. And again, big legal issues there. Obviously, having been there and then down in Atlanta and now in the Triangle, you've really covered 3 of the major cities, not only in the Southeast, but in the country.
Yeah, well, they were all have wonderful things to offer. D.C., I loved D.C. It was a wonderful place to work. Working on Capitol Hill was a fascinating experience, for sure. And then going to law school there was just as fascinating. Being able to see arguments in the
U.S. Supreme Court. You went over there to hear some arguments. Wow.
Right. Absolutely. So went over and saw some arguments before the court, and so it's just fascinating as a lawyer.
Right.
A fascinating place, great place to be, but great place to learn outside of the classroom. So.
As you think about for you leaving Bovis Lindley's, you could have found virtually any law firm in the Carolinas if you had a desire to get back to the Triangle. What was it about Womble, Carlisle, Sandridge, and Rice that really made it attractive to you, since you really could have picked, I guess, virtually anywhere you wanted to be? What made that law firm attractive to you when you were making a decision in returning back to the Triangle?
Sure. Well, actually, knowing that I wanted to come back to North Carolina, I took a look at the law firms in North Carolina, and it quickly became apparent to me that Womble Carlisle is the largest firm in North Carolina.
Right.
One of the oldest firms, if not the oldest firm in North Carolina. And it's a firm, not only is it old, but it's also a great mixture of has a great entrepreneurial spirit to it, and trying to go out and seek out new areas of the law to get involved in, but also has its hands in a number of areas, political. We've got former Governor Jim Hunt is a partner with the firm.
Is that right?
That's
Great.
Right.
Wow.
We just, in fact, opened an office in Maryland, and as of about a month ago, former Governor Bob Ehrlich from Maryland is also a partner with the firm.
That's tremendous. Wow.
We've got some great resources there, both in government and in business, and to me that was just a perfect match with my interest in business and legal issues. It was just a perfect match.
And your past experience with government.
And my past experience with government. Exactly.
Really opened some doors. We didn't have a chance to highlight, Culley, we're running out of time, but you also had some family down with you that came in. You've got some kids now?
That's right. Well, I've got 2 boys, Will, who is about a year and a half almost, and Culley, who's 5. We've got and then also brought my wife Sarah.
Your beautiful wife, who's also an attorney.
She's also an attorney. She is taking a break from the practice of law now, but she practiced for 7 years doing construction litigation before we moved to North Carolina. So she's enjoying Myrtle Beach right now and taking care of the kids. So it's been great.
Absolutely. Culley, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thanks very much.
It's been wonderful being with you.
Enjoyed it. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks for being here last week. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Culley Carson coming up next. Whether it's intellectual property, technology licensing, construction law, data, and other protection services, this firm can handle it, and it's reflected in the attorneys they send down here for a major conference like last week's Computer Security Conference here at the Holiday Inn West. It's so exciting to think about folks working on behalf of citizens, folks just like you and me, that are recognizing some of the real legal issues on the forefront of technology today. You can learn more about the firm and the exciting things they're doing all over the world at WCSR.com. That's www.WCSR.com. Take the time to check them out.